Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that moves faster than ever before, a world where tomorrow is never promised, and every sunrise is a gift we too often take for granted. Today, I want to speak directly to your heart because the truth is simple yet urgent. The end is near, and what we do now matters more than we realize. Time is a relentless force moving forward with or without our acknowledgement, carrying each of us closer to a horizon we cannot delay or ignore. It is a truth so simple, yet so often overlooked. The end is near. And the reality of that truth calls for more than mere recognition. It calls for immediate, intentional action. Life is fleeting, and in the quiet moments when we dare to consider it, we realize how easily it slips through our fingers, how quickly the days pass, and how unprepared many of us are for what inevitably comes. Preparation, therefore, is not optional. It is not a suggestion we can entertain when convenient or a task to postpone for another time. It is an urgent necessity that demands our attention today. In this very moment, we are stewards of our own lives, entrusted with days, hours, and even minutes that cannot be reclaimed once they are gone. To live as if tomorrow is guaranteed is to live in a state of perilous complacency, ignoring the ticking clock that measures not just our years, but the depth of our readiness, the quality of our decisions, and the alignment of our actions with the values we claim to hold. To be prepared is to face reality with courage, to confront the uncomfortable questions we often shy away from. Are we living with purpose? Are we nurturing the relationships, the talents, and the gifts entrusted to us? Are we ready to meet the end, whatever form it may take, without regret? The urgency of preparation is not merely about survival. It is about living fully and faithfully, understanding that every moment squandered is a moment we cannot recover. It calls us to wake from the sleep of distraction and to examine our lives with unflinching honesty. Too many wait, thinking there will be more time, more opportunities, more chances to do what matters most. But time is impartial. It does not wait for hesitation, nor does it grant reprieve to the unprepared. Every sunrise brings us closer to the inevitable, and the question that shadows every passing day is whether we have done what we should, whether we have lived in a way that honors the gifts we have been given, and whether we have faced the end with a heart unafraid and a life unshaken. Urgency compels action. It is the force that moves us from contemplation to commitment, from planning to implementation. To understand this urgency is to understand that preparation is a matter of the heart, mind, and soul, not simply a checklist or a set of external tasks. It is the readiness to embrace life fully, to respond to its demands faithfully, and to meet its challenges with courage and integrity. There is power in preparation, not because it alters the passage of time, but because it transforms the way we live within it. When we prepare, we are not consumed by fear of the unknown, but emboldened by the clarity that comes from intentional living. We recognize what is truly important, what endures, and what is fleeting, and we direct our energy accordingly. Urgency is not a call to panic, but a call to awaken, to stir ourselves from passivity and to seize the days we are given. It is a reminder that procrastination is the enemy of fulfillment, that hesitation is the thief of peace, and that in preparation we find freedom, confidence, and the ability to face whatever comes with a steady heart. The end may be near, but in that reality lies the opportunity to live deliberately, to prioritize wisely, and to act with a purpose that echoes beyond the fleeting hours of today. It is a summons to examine our choices, our commitments, and the very trajectory of our lives, knowing that in preparation, we secure not just a response to the end, but a life lived fully and without compromise. Life has a way of moving so quickly that we rarely stop to examine the path we are traveling. The business of our days, the constant demands on our time, and the unending distractions of the world around us can easily pull our attention away from the questions that truly matter. But there comes a moment, sometimes quietly and sometimes with startling clarity, when we are forced to pause and look inward, to reflect on the state of our lives and the condition of our hearts. Spiritual and personal reflection is not a luxury or an optional exercise. It is an essential practice for those who wish to live meaningfully and with purpose. It requires courage because it asks us to confront what is often hidden, the choices we have made, the paths we have neglected, the moments we have wasted, and the ways in which we have failed to align our actions with the principles we claim to hold dear. Reflection invites honesty. It challenges us to ask the difficult questions: who am I really becoming? Am I living in accordance with the values that define me? Are my priorities grounded in what will last beyond today, or am I consumed with the fleeting and superficial? It is only when we face ourselves with clear vision that we can begin to see where we stand, where we have fallen short, and where the opportunities for growth and change lie. There is profound power in this type of self-examination because it opens the door to transformation. When we take the time to reflect, we become aware of the patterns of our lives, the habits that hold us back, the decisions that shape our character, and the relationships that either strengthen or diminish our sense of purpose. Spiritual reflection deepens this process, reminding us that life is not solely about what we achieve, acquire, or experience, but about how we live in harmony with a higher calling, a sense of meaning that transcends the ordinary. It calls us to measure our lives not by the applause of the world, but by the integrity of our hearts, the depth of our compassion, and the faithfulness with which we respond to the opportunities and responsibilities we are given. Personal reflection, paired with spiritual insight, allows us to pause amid chaos, to assess the alignment between our actions and our beliefs, and to consider the legacy we are creating. It encourages us to celebrate what is good, to acknowledge what needs change, and to embrace the potential for renewal that exists in every moment. Reflection is an act of courage because it often reveals uncomfortable truths about ourselves, truths we may prefer to ignore. Yet it is precisely in facing these truths that we gain clarity and strength. We see where we have relied on temporary fixes instead of lasting solutions, where we have sought approval from the world instead of pursuing what is right, and where we have neglected the disciplines that cultivate wisdom, patience, and resilience. The practice of reflection also allows us to consider our relationships, our contributions, and our role in the lives of others. It reminds us that the way we treat people, the choices we make, and the priorities we hold are not isolated matters. They ripple outward, shaping not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. In this light, reflection becomes a form of stewardship, a way of carefully examining the life entrusted to us and ensuring that it is lived intentionally. It is not about guilt or self-condemnation. It is about awakening to the reality that our days are numbered, that our influence is meaningful, and that the decisions we make today have eternal significance. Spiritual and personal reflection equips us to navigate life with wisdom, humility, and purpose, giving us the ability to respond to challenges with clarity, to recognize the fleeting nature of time, and to embrace the opportunities to live fully and faithfully. It is in the quiet, deliberate act of turning inward, of asking the hard questions, and of listening with an open heart that we discover the strength to align our lives with what truly matters and to take steps that lead us toward wholeness. Hope is not a passive feeling. It is a force that moves the heart, shapes the mind, and compels the spirit to rise above circumstance. It is easy to speak of hope as if it were merely a comfort, a gentle reassurance that things will somehow turn out. But true hope demands more than sentiment. It calls for action. It is not enough to wish for a better outcome or to imagine a brighter tomorrow. Hope must be active, embodied, and lived, for it is in our response to life's challenges that hope reveals its transformative power. To act in hope is to refuse despair, even when the world seems uncertain or threatening. It is to recognize that while the future may be unknown, we are not helpless. Our choices, our preparation, and our courage can shape the course of what is to come. There is a remarkable strength in the marriage of hope and action, because hope without effort remains idle, and action without hope is directionless. When we act from hope, we are motivated not merely by fear of the end, but by the conviction that our lives, our decisions, and our efforts can carry meaning beyond the immediate moment. Hope in action challenges us to confront obstacles with persistence, to pursue what is right even when it is difficult, and to embrace responsibility rather than surrender to helplessness. It invites us to see the possibilities hidden within our circumstances, the opportunities for growth, and the potential for renewal that can emerge even from loss and adversity. To live with hope in action is to cultivate resilience. It means acknowledging the reality of hardship without succumbing to despair, maintaining faith in the midst of uncertainty, and pressing forward when giving up might seem easier. This is a hope rooted not in naivety but in truth, a recognition that the human spirit is capable of endurance, that our actions can ripple outward to touch the lives of others, and that preparation, courage, and persistence can transform the trajectory of our days. Acting with hope also requires clarity of purpose. It is not a vague optimism, but a deliberate, intentional engagement with the life we have been given. It challenges us to prioritize what matters most, to invest our time and energy in what is lasting, and to focus on actions that reflect integrity, compassion, and courage. In doing so, hope becomes a guiding light, illuminating the path forward when the way is unclear, giving direction when uncertainty surrounds us, and offering confidence that our efforts are not in vain. Hope in action also nurtures a sense of peace that cannot be shaken by circumstance. When we act with hope, we are no longer passive victims of life's unpredictability. We are participants, contributors, and co-creators of a meaningful future. This act of hope allows us to confront challenges with a calm determination, to persevere when trials test our resolve, and to remain steadfast when setbacks threaten to derail us. It is the hope that motivates preparation, encourages reflection, and inspires courage. Moreover, hope in action is contagious. The courage we display, the decisions we make, and the integrity with which we live our lives serve as examples to others, igniting hope in hearts that may have grown weary or uncertain. By choosing to act with hope, we become beacons of possibility, reminding those around us that even in the shadow of difficulty, there is reason to strive, to believe, and to move forward. In essence, hope in action is not simply about looking forward with desire or imagining a better future. It is about engaging fully in the present, committing to the steps we can take, and trusting that those steps, however small, have the power to make a difference. It transforms fear into purpose, uncertainty into resolve, and despair into determination. To embrace hope in action is to live with eyes wide open to reality, hearts filled with courage, and hands ready to shape the world with intentionality and faith. Complacency is a quiet, insidious force that can take root in our lives without us even noticing. It is the subtle acceptance of good enough, the tendency to settle for comfort over challenge, and the quiet excuse that tomorrow will provide the opportunities we neglect today. The danger of complacency lies in its ability to lull us into passivity, to convince us that preparation is unnecessary, and to mask the urgency of the moments that are slipping through our hands. When we succumb to complacency, we stop striving for growth, we stop asking the hard questions about our purpose, and we stop taking the deliberate steps necessary to align our lives with meaning and intention. It is a trap that appears harmless at first, a life of routines, of predictable patterns, of avoiding discomfort, but over time it erodes potential, diminishes passion, and blinds us to the fleeting nature of our days. To overcome complacency is to awaken, to confront the reality that life does not wait, that the opportunities we have today may not be available tomorrow, and that the choices we make now define the quality of the life we will live and the legacy we will leave behind. It requires self-awareness, because the first step in breaking free is recognizing where we have grown comfortable, where we have avoided effort, and where we have allowed fear or inertia to dictate our actions. Complacency thrives in familiarity, in routines repeated without reflection, and in a false sense of security that tells us we are doing enough when, in reality, we are merely existing. Confronting complacency is a challenge because it often means acknowledging uncomfortable truths about our own habits, priorities, and attitudes. It demands that we examine not only our achievements, but also our missed opportunities, the dreams we have deferred, and the responsibilities we have neglected. To face these truths is not to foster guilt, but to ignite motivation, the understanding that we have the power to change, to act, and to live with greater purpose. Overcoming complacency also requires courage. It asks us to step beyond the familiar, to risk failure in pursuit of growth, and to embrace discomfort as a necessary companion in the journey toward significance. It is through discomfort that we discover resilience, develop strength, and awaken creativity. The choice to rise above complacency is a choice to reclaim the urgency of life, to recognize that time is fleeting and that every moment carries the weight of opportunity. It is a commitment to intentional living, where each day becomes an arena for meaningful action, self-improvement, and alignment with the principles that guide us. When we confront complacency, we are compelled to prioritize what truly matters, to invest our energy wisely, and to embrace the disciplines that lead to growth, character, and purpose. We begin to see that the world does not reward passivity, that progress requires effort, and that fulfillment is reserved for those willing to step beyond comfort and complacency. There is also a freedom that comes from overcoming complacency. Once we recognize its hold and choose to act deliberately, we are no longer prisoners of habit or fear. We gain the power to direct our lives rather than be directed by circumstances. Each decision becomes an opportunity to move closer to our goals, to serve others more effectively, and to live in alignment with our deepest convictions. Overcoming complacency is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice. It is a daily commitment to vigilance, reflection, and action. It is the resolve to say no to stagnation, no to mediocrity, and no to the excuses that tempt us to delay the work that matters. It is the willingness to examine our lives honestly, to take responsibility for our choices, and to pursue excellence in all that we do. The challenge is great because complacency is comfortable, familiar, and deceptively convincing, but the rewards of resisting it are immeasurable. In breaking free from its grip, we reclaim the urgency to prepare, the clarity to reflect, and the courage to act with hope and purpose. We discover that life is not meant to be passively endured, but intentionally embraced, that every day offers a chance to move closer to our potential, and that by overcoming complacency, we step into a life that is vibrant, intentional, and filled with meaning. Motivation is the spark that moves thought into action, the invisible force that transforms intention into achievement, and the energy that propels us forward even when the path is uncertain or the obstacles seem insurmountable. It is more than a fleeting feeling or a momentary surge of enthusiasm. True motivation is deeply rooted in purpose, clarity, and conviction. To be inspired is not simply to feel good for a moment. It is to awaken to the possibilities within ourselves, to recognize the potential that lies dormant, and to commit fully to the pursuit of meaningful goals. Motivation requires awareness because without understanding why we must act, our efforts risk being aimless, scattered, or easily abandoned in the face of difficulty. It asks us to identify what truly matters, to connect with the reasons behind our choices, and to summon the courage to pursue them relentlessly. There is a profound difference between doing what is expected and doing what is purposeful, and it is motivation that drives us toward the latter. When we are inspired, we find the strength to rise early, to persevere late, and to continue forward even when challenges threaten to overwhelm us. Motivation does not eliminate difficulty, but it transforms the way we respond to it. It reminds us that obstacles are not the end of the road, but opportunities to grow, to adapt, and to demonstrate resilience. It fuels determination when fatigue sets in and sustains focus when distraction tempts us to settle for mediocrity. To cultivate motivation, we must recognize that it is both an internal and external force. Internally, it arises from clarity of purpose, from alignment between our actions and our deepest convictions, and from a vision of what we can become if we act with intention. Externally, it can be reinforced by examples, mentors, experiences, and reminders of the impact our actions can have on the world around us. Motivation thrives when it is connected to something greater than self-interest, when it draws from a desire to contribute, to lead, to uplift, and to leave a meaningful mark on the lives of others. Inspiring motivation is also a call to responsibility. It demands that we refuse complacency, overcome hesitation, and reject the excuses that so often delay progress. It challenges us to rise above the ordinary, to refuse the lure of comfort, and to embrace the discipline and sacrifice required to achieve what is worthwhile. Motivation is contagious because when one person commits fully to action, their resolve can ignite the hearts of those around them. It reminds us that our lives are not lived in isolation, and that the courage, energy, and conviction we display can inspire others to take their own steps toward purpose. At its core, motivation is deeply intertwined with hope, for it is hope that gives direction to our efforts and perseverance to our struggles. To be motivated is to believe that our choices matter, that our actions have weight, and that the effort we put forth can transform not only our own circumstances, but the world in which we live. This belief, this sense of possibility, is what propels individuals to act boldly, to persevere relentlessly, and to rise even when the challenges seem insurmountable. Motivation, when properly nurtured, becomes a habit of the heart, a constant companion that reminds us daily that we are capable and that our lives carry purpose, and that we have within us the ability to act decisively. It is the force that bridges the gap between intention and reality, the energy that allows us to convert reflection into action, and the courage that sustains us when doubt arises. Inspiring motivation does not eliminate fear or remove obstacles, but it equips us to confront them with resolve, clarity, and passion. It is the fuel that transforms preparation into achievement, reflection into insight, and hope into tangible results. When we embrace motivation fully, we commit to living with intentionality, striving with persistence, and acting with courage, knowing that every step taken with purpose, no matter how small, carries us closer to the life we are called to live and the legacy we are meant to leave.